Oh man, good morning. I can't remember it being this humid since the time when I was in my 20s flying generals around Fort Polk, Louisiana for 2 weeks. East Texas and Louisiana about as humid as any place I can imagine in the country. Anyway, this is Nebraska. Just a touch drier usually. But it's a beautiful morning. Oh, I'm loving it. Even though the rain just killed us last night, the thunderstorm for 2 hours or so. Right, parked itself right over our house, I think. Anyway, there's a pair of eagles. We call them Abby, Ed and Abby, and they live over that way a little bit. Maybe about 1,000 feet from here, give or take. And we're so proud of them, really. They're such great parents. Got my sweat rag right there. Oh, I think I'll take it down so it doesn't change the character or the color of the video. Anyway, they've been raising offspring so well, doing such a great job. Now, since they don't put bands, they don't band them here, which would be cool to see. We don't know how well their offspring fare. They say about 50% don't make it to their first year. And there are dangers out there still. There's no DDT that we know of. That was banned a long time ago. But remember back in 1962, and that might be the year when Holmes Lake, there's the bridge down there, the South Bridge, there's a North Bridge, or an East Bridge as well. But that might be the year 62 or so when this whole complex was built. I don't know when the golf course was built, but I've seen pictures from around that time, and the golf course was out there. I don't know if it was a 9-hole or 18-hole or what, but they managed to cram all those holes onto that, what I would call a small area over there. And they've done a pretty good job. The interesting thing, if you're watching, that I want to talk about this morning, if you're watching the two bald eagles out in Big Bear, California, was it Jackie and Shadow? And I think their two offspring are Sandy and Luna, I believe. Of course, they're having a hard time right now because Jackie was attacked and found to be anemic, and they had to take her into the veterinary clinic there somewhere about 4 hours from where they live on Big Bear Lake. Debbie and I have been up there a number of times. Her family's from Southern Cal, from Orange County, really. And they actually had property up there at Arrowhead Lake, which is one of the two big lakes along with Big Bear. And I loved it up there. It's beautiful country. But the sad thing about Southern California is that it seems like every square foot of territory is being taken up for a house. Huge houses, big houses. And that's the way it was when we would visit. That wasn't the way when she was growing up out there. But it got so bad that you'd come back after a break for 1.5 to 2 years and go out on vacation out there. And places that you thought were secure, that weren't going to be taken up for housing, no luck. They're build. And so one of the main things that people worried about in the 60s when they started recovering the bald eagle was habitat. Habitat is a big thing on, how these animals are going to succeed and how they're going to do well. And so habitat was critical to the success and the return of the bald eagle. And the funny thing about habitat here is these two eagles, Ed and Abby, came into this space long after the 60s. They must have come into this space. My guess is they've been raising young for 4 or 5 years here that we know of. So probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. We don't know exactly when. I'm looking for people that know more about it than I do, actually. I'd love to hear from them. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that they came here 5 years ago, around COVID or before COVID, 2020 or whatever. Could be a little longer. But they came into a habitat that was already human used quite a bit. Humans use this. I mean, the golf course is right there. Their nest is over one of the holes on the golf course. And it's just fascinating how successful they are when they didn't lose this habitat. They had to learn how to share this habitat with humans. There are human machines, these golf course cutting machines. I don't know what you call them, mowers of some kind. And they're big a lot of times, and they go right under their nest. Now there's signs out down there that say, be careful of your activities around the nest and so forth. But humans get within 100, 150 feet, maybe a little less of that pair over there. That's kind of verboten in a lot of places. You don't want to get that close usually. But somehow there's a relationship between these two and their offspring. They had 3 this year that we know of. And they're succeeding in the middle of humanity. That's pretty impressive to me. Jackie and Shadow out west they've got a 50, 60 acre area or more. I don't know how big, but there are people trying to raise money, and I think they've raised a lot of money to buy like a 53 acre parcel to keep those areas around their nest at Big Bear in California, to keep their nest more isolated, more out away from humans. And that's a good thing too. There's nothing wrong with that. And so they can raise that money, and that's exciting. And we need parklands out there. I can't imagine how much it's built up on the sides of Big Bear Lake. It used to be, I've flown over it when I was in the Army. We flew right over it one time. It used to be quite isolated back in the 50s, 60s, probably 70s at least, especially the eastern part. There's probably a lot of houses around it now. And, you can be all for growth and beautiful houses and so forth and some things like that. But some places you gotta hold back and preserve them a little more. And I think that's one of them. But the fascinating thing to me today is that these two here, that make their home about 1,000 feet behind me, probably a little less, they're just stunningly successful at living with humans. Edward and Abby have gotten within 50 feet of us, maybe a little less one time down. I don't know if you can see it, but one time down by the spill house down there, Abby flew over and was grabbing fish, and she was probably 25 feet away from my wife one time. Just flew right over her. And they get close, and they've learned how to get along in the same spaces, or very close to the same spaces. And I'm fascinated by that, because that was one of the big worries back in the 60s, 70s. And I think still people today worry about, can the eagle get along in spaces nearby humans? Well, I'm here to tell you, these two do. These two do. Now, that's not an excuse for getting rid of habitat, wantonly just mowing it over and concreting it over and putting houses on it. I think there's lots of places that could be turned into parkland just like this. Sometimes I wonder about the designers of this beautiful acreage. I think the lake is about 130 acres of water. I don't know how much else is out here, but it looks like several hundred acres or more. And the designers, what were they thinking? Back in 62, I don't know when this was built, in the early 60s. They didn't see any eagles back then. because apparently there was none in the state of nesting bald eagles. And that was at the low point when there was 417 in the 48 states. So it's a fascinating recovery. It's a fascinating story of these eagles making their way in nature, sharing it with humans. There's a lot of lessons to be learned, and there's a lot of responsibilities to be taken up on how important. If you watch the headlines in the news about Jackie and Shadow, they're getting millions of views. I mean, they're celebrities. They're getting millions of views. I don't know if they were the first ones on camera. I know there's cameras all over the country now on eagle nests, but they were probably among the first. And they're just as popular as any rock stars or anything else. People are really getting into the recovery and the joy and the majesty of these eagles. It's quite a story. It's a lot easier to see a 7-foot wingspan bird than it is, other birds and smaller birds. You can see a lot of them, but they don't take your breath away quite as much as the bald eagle does. So there's a huge story behind the recovery of the bald eagles, and I'm really proud of the people that started that whole recovery process. I don't think they have much of an idea of just how successful these eagles would become and would turn out, and they did their job well. The recovery plan in Nebraska was supposedly to get 10 pairs of bald eagles working again back in the 60s, and I think there's easily 100 pairs. There's probably more like 200 pairs of bald eagles in the state that are successfully raising young. We're close to, I'm sure this is an educated guess, but we're probably close to 80,000 pairs of bald eagles across the lower 48 states. Anyway, take some notice of these eagles when you come out. Enjoy them. Keep your distance, of course. Enjoy this very special space. Other spaces like it. Find your space. These are third places that we love to be in. Usually it's a cafe or a bookstore, but this is one of those very special. It's right out our back door. Very special third places. And there's a lot going on, a lot more than most people realize. You got to get into nature a little bit, make yourself a student of it, and you'll be rewarded, I believe, immensely. Anyway, it's Tuesday. What is it? July 27th or 28th? 27th, I think. Anyway, I don't keep up with the dates very well. But you have a great week, and this is Marty saying see you later. Next time, this is talk number 2 on bald eagles in the area here, and a little bit in California too. So talk number 2 on Eagle Talk in Holmes Lake. We'll see you later.